Hello, my friends. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype traits, and GD match results of an Afanasievo individual from China. The sample name is very, very interesting, G218M5-2. It's very difficult. I couldn't find any information about the sample. I had to actually Google it, and it turns out that it's a Jungarian early Bronze Age Afanasievo sample. Very, very interesting. So it's a Jungarian early Bronze Age sample. With my ethnicity calculator, it scores closest to Gleb Sviatoslavovich and Haj Firuz. Followed by that is Satsurblia CHG. Followed by that is Syrian Arab. And the closest mixtures is Gleb Sviatoslavovich plus Gleb Sviatoslavovich, or Gleb Sviatoslavovich plus Haj Firuz, or Syrian Arab plus Bali Lulai from Lithuania, or Hash Firuz plus Syrian Arab, or mixture of French plus Syrian Arab. Very, very interesting mixtures. So kind of like a mixture of Northern European plus Middle Eastern is what my oracle is giving for this individual. That's done on the basis of 435 SNPs. And with Eurogene's K15, this is what this individual scores. Here he's scoring 35% Eastern European, 22% North Sea. He's scoring 11% American Indian, which is definitely quite interesting. 10.5% West Asian and 10% South Asian. So quite atypical for like a Afanasievo culture, because Afanasievo would be identical to Yamna. This individual is scoring quite a lot more Siberian and Amerindian. That was typical for Yamnans. So this person is a little bit mixed with native people of Jungaria, native Chinese, whatever, who have Amerindian and Siberian admixture. So he's like a mixture of Yamna plus a little bit more Amerindian and Siberian. And with the oracle, you see he's actually getting more of a mixture of Chuvash plus Malta Boy, Chuvash plus MA1. Very, very interesting oracle. So this is like a mixture of Yamna plus a little bit of Siberian. Very interesting admixture. For the Y-DNA, my trait predictor is finding R1b to be this sample's paternal lineage. For Y-sec clade finder, it actually determined the paternal lineage to be R1b Z2103, which is definitely very interesting. For mitochondrial haplogroup, let's wait for James Lick mitochondrial lineage detector to finish. But when it comes to this RZ2103, let's see RZ2103. What is that? Let's see where that is most common in for the map, and where this lineage is typically found in. I've seen this before, but I don't exactly know the spread of this lineage. Wait, we're gonna wait for the maps to load. Maybe I will speed up this in the video. Okay, so the maps are loading. Okay, so this looks like the spread of this haplogroup. Wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy spread. And it looks like it is nowhere in the world is it at a higher frequency than 10%. So the highest frequency anywhere is 10%. So it's at a relatively high frequency in the very north of Russia, which is surprising, in the Caucasus, in Turkey. And wait, what if we reduce the intensity a little bit like this? I want to reduce the intensity. Okay, so really it's more Turkish than anything. It's more Armenian and Turkish than anything. Okay, very, very interesting. All right. I think this is not going to load. I'm not going to wait for it to load. If it loads at some point in time, then that's good, but I'm not going to wait for it to load. Let's see what this individual's... Okay, I think it's done, yes. So the mitochondrial lineage is H15B1. Good. I found a spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet I think is wrong, because the spreadsheet doesn't contain a Y-DNA. For the spreadsheet, what was the mitochondrial lineage? H15B1. Yeah, so the spreadsheet got the mitochondrial DNA right, but the spreadsheet doesn't have a Y-DNA. Okay, so the spreadsheet is incomplete. The spreadsheet doesn't have the Y-DNA for the sample. So if I had access to the spreadsheet, I could fill in the Y-DNA for the sample, but I don't have writing perms. I don't have permissions to write here, so I can't edit it and fix it a little bit. So yep, very very sad. I don't get to edit the spreadsheet and change it. So very 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 sad. I can't fix this issue. Anyway, let's move on to Nashakot calculator results for this sample. And this sample has brown eye color. The second largest group for eye color is darkest brown eyes. So most likely this individual has brown eye color at 55% likelihood, followed by that is darkest brown eyes at 39% likelihood. Most likely this person does not have hazel eyes, but that's also a little bit possible. Like 4% likelihood of hazel eyes is sort of possible. And of course, for green, blue, amber, or blue, that's completely out of the picture. For hair color, definitely black hair. Nothing else is possible at all. For skin color, definitely light brown skin. Pretty much everything else is out of the picture. For hair texture, most likely straight hair, 59% likelihood of straight hair. Everything else is quite unlikely. Kinky hair is completely out of the picture. Once again, 0.2% likelihood of kinky hair is completely out of the picture. For um, for blue eye haplotypes, no BEH3, no BEH2, most likely no BEH1 either, and no BEH4. No light color variants in MC1R, so no predisposition to ginger hair color. All right, let's see the phenotype oracle. Let's see what phenotypes this individual resembles the most. So it looks like the phenotypes this individual resembles the most are this. Very, very interesting, kind of like a European hunter-gatherer-ish looking phenotype, followed by this. Which is more of like a Native American looking phenotype, followed by this, which is once again a Native American looking phenotype. Very interesting. And for the phenotype mixtures, looks like mixtures are this plus this, or this plus this, or sort of like a mixture of European plus something else. I mean, European plus something like a little bit more spicy, a little bit something more exotic. Um, let's explore the facial morphology panel actually, because I feel like there might be something exotic here. Yes, so you see this person has East Asian genotype in EDAR, shovel-shaped incisors, and either partial or full East Asian ancestry. So because of that, they score all of these exotic phenotypes for the phenotype oracle, because that plays a role in the phenotype oracle, because these genotypes they actually play a big role in the oracle for the phenotype, right? So that actually contributes. So it's interesting that he has this genotype, kind of unusual for a Afanasievo person to have East Asian genotype in EDAR. However, in the other two alleles, in the other two variations for EDAR, he's got European genotypes for EDAR, which is kind of interesting. There's a little bit of a dislinkage here in EDAR. Longer or typical mid-face length, intermediate odds of protruding nasal bridge, larger nose size, and two genotypes for slightly thicker eyebrows. Definitely very interesting to see. Okay, now let's see for the I think we've seen the phenotypes. Let's see the biomarkers panel. So it looks like he's got above average levels of vitamin D. It looks like he's got below average levels of LDL cholesterol, average levels of HDL cholesterol. So far, so good. Below average levels of glucose levels, really good to see. Average levels of hemoglobin, really good to see. Below average blood pressure, really good to see. Below average levels of iron, good to see. Below average sex hormone binding globulin, really good to see. Slightly above average red blood cell count, really good to see. And actually, a higher number of base pairs for telomere length, which is really good once again. So this is something I added very recently, and this is not on the itch version. This is a telomere length expected panel. It's kind of like an experimental thing, um, trying to predict the length of your telomeres based on your genotypes. It's very experimental. I don't know if it's very legitimate or valid, but there you go. Um, so he is predicted to have a larger, longer telomere length based on his genotypes, which is really good to see. Really, really good to see. So he's got some increase in his lifespan based on that. Let's see his polygenic risk scores, what predispositions he has, and we'll move on to the monogenic traits after that. So it looks like he's got below average odds for rheumatoid arthritis, average odds for Tourette's, above average odds for epilepsy, average odds for asthma, above average odds for leukemia, below average odds for vitiligo, below average odds for myopia, below average odds for primary biliary cirrhosis, average odds for stroke, above average odds for male pattern hair loss, which is typical for Europeans, which he is, above average odds for atrial fibrillation, below average odds for deep vein thrombosis, very high odds for bipolar type 1, high odds for schizophrenia, very high odds for schizophrenia, um, below average odds for type 2 diabetes, below average odds for type 1 diabetes, below average odds for Alzheimer's, below average odds for multiple sclerosis. 2 risk variants for breast cancer after 22, which is pretty typical. 10 risk variants for testicular cancer of 22, and it looks like he's got a lot of risk variants in the important variations in kilo G. So when it comes to that, he's kind of cooked because he's got 2 risk variants in all the important variations in kilo G. I think there's 3 in total, so he's definitely quite cooked when it comes to testicular cancer risk variants. 4 risk variants for celiac disease out of 4. Wow, that's definitely awful. No risk variants for GSS, which is really good. 4 risk variants for Crohn's out of 20. None of them are in the important variations, so that's pretty good. No risk variants for Riefenstein's, really good. No risk variants for Parkinson's, really good. No risk variants for Gilbert, really good. No risk variants for basal cell carcinoma, really good. So what does he really have to watch out for? Maybe schizophrenia, but actually not really, because it's a really rare condition, and like what's the rate of that? Like 0.4% in the general population. So having 2.4 times the average, it's still the rate of that is still like 1%. So it's not really a concern. Not that big of a deal, to be honest. Um, so what does the really have to watch out for in this result? Let's think. Maybe male pattern hair loss. Actually, that may be a concern. Um, Actually, testicular cancer may be a concern, but I don't know. Testicular cancer in the Bronze Age, I don't know if it was that prevalent back then. Yeah, I don't know. Looks like a very healthy individual. For results for mental health section, he's not genotyped for the Valmet variation, which is very, very unfortunate. So we don't know if he's a warrior or a warrior in Valmet, but we do know that he's a warrior in MAOA. So he's a warrior in MAOA, therefore higher dopamine levels and certain advantages in motivation and attention tasks. It looks like he's got predisposition to intermediate number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain. Looks like he does not have any dwarfism-related variants in FGF RR3 variants. It looks like he um, does not have the long form 5-HT-TLPR, so he's got short form 5-HT-TLPR, therefore slightly higher odds of depression. It looks like he's got a predisposition to higher odds of autism. It looks like he's got a predisposition to lower levels of empathy based on his genotype in OXTR. He does not have any derived variants for European lactose persistence in his based on his genotype in MCM6. So essentially, MCM6 is this gene that's correlated with your ability to produce the lactase enzyme. And in Europeans, there's a certain variation that essentially turns on or off your ability to produce that enzyme. And Europeans without this mutation, without this signal, are unable to produce this enzyme as a general rule, which is very interesting because it's only in Europeans. Outside of Europe, people don't have this mutation. Like for example, if you go to Africa, they're all none of them have this mutation. If you go to East Asia or South India or like India, anywhere outside of Europe, none of them have this mutation, but they all have the enzyme. It's only a European thing. So it's kind of like it doesn't really it's not really valid for predicting lactose intolerance outside of Europe because they all have their own unique mutations. When it comes to diabetes, it looks like um, let's see. Okay, and the important stuff for type 1 diabetes, the one that's in the HLA variants, aren't found here. That's unfortunate. For hemochromatosis, no risk variants here in the C282Y. Okay. Multiple sclerosis, no risk variants in HLA. All right, for cardiovascular disease panel, looks like this individual has a predisposition to intermediate odds of cardiovascular issues. So kind of average, intermediate odds of various cardiovascular issues. For myopia panel, no G allele here, no protection from myopia. For telomere panel, looks like he's got a bunch of genotypes for a longer telomere length. I'm predicting that the HLA panel is going to be really good because all of the HLA genotypes are really good so far. They're all very healthy. No micropenis in here, no micropenis in here either. 8 points higher IQ than AA. Better performing muscles, likely sprinter rather than endurance athlete. No fat gene variants. Neptune was RS99P9609. Likely does not have 40 sneeze reflex. And not an Asian flusher. Lower odds of alcoholism. Normal risk of esophageal cancer. Risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications is 1.9 times the average. So this person is definitely predisposed to a significant increase of heart failure due to beta blocker medications. Very, very, very interesting. A significant increase in the risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications. All right. So this person is not a carrier of Melanesian blonde hair variants and is not a carrier of any of the albinism mutations. When it comes to alcoholism, looks like the risk score for alcoholism is slightly above average. Let's see what else I can talk about here. No risk variance for familial hypercholesteremia in APOB out of 4 total. Really good to see. For rare diseases and traits panel, looks like no risk variance for any of the hyper. Okay, 20 times increased risk of ankylosing spondylitis, but I remember that this genotype is not particularly rare. It's quite common, so I'm not sure if it's exactly 20 times increased risk. Maybe it's 20 times increased risk relative to the opposite genotype, and not necessarily relative to the average. Um, Not a carrier for Sanfilippo syndrome. No GSS. Nothing too surprising or unusual or atypical here. No protective variants from HIV or AIDS. And for HLA gene panel, yeah, definitely lowest odds of autoimmune disease, and only 2.7% odds of higher odds of autoimmune disease. So this person is definitely quite protected from various autoimmune diseases. For muscular dystrophy myopathies, looks like no risk alleles for any of the muscular dystrophy myopathies, and zero risk variants for adrenoleukodystrophy. 0 out of 24 total for adrenoleukodystrophy. Really good to see. For color blindness panel, 2 risk variants and OPN1SW out of 8 total. So there is a little bit predisposition to being colorblind. I'm not sure what's. I'm not. I've never done a statistic on like color blindness. What's how many risk variants you actually need to have to develop it. Maybe I should do a stat on color blindness and risk variants for color blindness in these genes. That would be very interesting to do. FTO gene panel looks like most of these genotypes are for lower odds of obesity, lower odds of extreme obesity. So he's got no predisposition to obesity whatsoever. It looks like he's quite healthy and no predisposition to being overweight at all. For syncope, based on I can't even say. It looks like there's a glitch here. There's a persistent glitch with the S&Ps for syncope. I'm not sure what causes it, but he's got a below average odds for syncope. And for biotraits panel, it looks like he's got a wet ear wax and normal smelly air body odor, which is typical for non-East Asians. Looks like he's got 2 copies of the farmer CLT-CL gene variant and has a selective advantage of processing carbohydrate-rich diets. Very interesting. Um, Looks like for blood group panel, he's got blood type A, which is kind of unusual. The most typical blood type is type O, but for him, he quite definitely has blood type A. Everything else for blood type is unlikely. So, like type B for him is the second most likely option, but it's quite unlikely. It would be unusual for him to have blood type B with this kind of a result. Well, that's pretty much all there is that I wanted to cover for this individual. Thanks for watching until the very end. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Um, Thanks for watching until the very end. Once again, I want to remind you that you can download this file in 23andMe format from link which is in the description of the video. And I also want to remind you that I am selling my application. I'm selling my software for genetic analysis on itch, and I want you to buy my stuff. That's the best way you can support me in doing what I'm doing and delivering this content to you, is to buy my stuff. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.